Hello friends, again with the anatomy video, and the topic of today's video is the folds of dura mater and dural sinuses. As we know, the brain, important organ of the body, a governing boss of the body, is covered with the layers, and those layers are called as meninges. Among these layers, the outer layer is thickened. It is made up of the fibrous tissue, and this thickened layer covers the whole brain. Now, behind this dura, there are two more matters, arachnoid and pia mater. You can say pia mater. We are talking about the outermost fibrous thickened layer, that is dura mater. So to get this view of the dura mater, we should have to remove the skull. For removing the skull, there is need to remove the skin over the skull. After removing the skin over the skull and after taking a cut, we can remove the skull and directly we can visualize the outer fold, outer covering of the brain, that is the dura mater. This outer covering covers whole brain, and it is directly added. It is directly added with the second layer, and that is subarachnoid matter. Now, one more thing to remember, one more thing to know, that this dura mater having two layers. Now, this dura mater, the outer fold, outer covering of the brain, having two layers. One is the outer layer and second is the inner layer. Now this outer layer, which is toward the skull, or which is toward the cranium, so it is called as cranial layer or ostal layer, and the inner layer, which is by the side of brain, it is called as meningeal layer, because below this layer there are two more meninges. So these two layers are the parts of dura mater. Now, the inner layer, that is what the meningeal layer, get its folds, whereas the outer layer or cranial layer remain patent. Inner layer get its fold and outer layer remain patent. The folds of inner layer are known as the folds of dura mater. This is meningeal fold. Now see, this fold covers the whole brain. Which one? The outer. Whereas the inner fold, or that is meningeal fold, a meningeal layer of the dura mater, it get folded. It get folded in this way. And now, due to this folding, it get embedded in the spaces which are free. Means the space like between two cerebral hemispheres, between two cerebellum, the space between cerebrum and cerebellum. So these are the extensions of inner layer of the dura mater, and those are called as dural folds. They are four. One is a fold which is going in between two hemispheres, cerebrum, which is going in between two cerebral hemispheres, and that fold is called as falx cerebri. In the same sense, the second fold, which is going in between two cerebellum, a small brain, which is going in between two cerebellum, the name is same, falx, but it is connected with the cerebellum, so it is called as falx cerebelli. Now the third fold, it is a fold of tent shape. It is a fold of tent shape between two, big brain and small brain, between cerebrum and cerebellum. It is called as tentorium cerebelli. It is called as tentorium cerebelli. And fourth fold is diaphragmaticus coeli. We know the pituitary gland having relation with the sphenoid bone, and this the infundibulum of pituitary gland, and this infundibulum is totally covered by the fold of dura mater, and that is called as diaphragmatica celli. Now one by one. Now first, falx cerebri. It is a fold of dura mater which is in between the two cerebral hemispheres. Which is in between the two cerebral hemispheres. This fold is a cecal sepal fold. This fold is a cecal sepal fold having attachments. Anteriorly, it is having attachment with the crista galli. Whereas posteriorly, it is having attachment with the tentorium cerebelli. Anteriorly with the crista galli, that is bone, and posteriorly it rests on the tentorium cerebelli. This is one fold, and this fold contains the sinuses, dural sinuses. Upper part of the fold that contains superior sagittal sinus, whereas lower part of the fold contains inferior sagittal sinus. Now the next fold is falx cerebelli. It is a fold between two cerebellum, not cerebrum, cerebellum, and that fold is having connection with again the tentorium cerebelli. A fold which is below the tentorium is falx cerebelli and above the tentorium is falx cerebri. Now the third fold is a tent sepal fold. This tent sepal fold looks like this. Now these are the free ends. These two free ends are having attachment at the sphenoid bone, and the back portion is helping to separate, helping to work as a partition between cerebellum and cerebrum. Now friends, with these folds there are good many sinuses which are running at the junctions or at the upper and lower part of the folds. Now these folds of dura mater, at the spaces they contain the venal channels, and those venal channels are known as sinuses. They are 7 paired and 5 unpaired, means there are total 12 sinuses. So transverse sinus, cavernous sinus, greater petrosal sinus, lesser petrosal sinus, spinoparietal sinus, sigmoidal sinus and basilar sinus are the paired sinuses, whereas superior sagittal, inferior sagittal, straight occipital sinus and internal cavernous sinuses are the unpaired sinuses. Among these, the cavernous sinus is of utter importance, prime importance sinus, because through the cavernous sinus, see the magic, through the cavernous sinus, even though it contains the your venous blood, through the cavernous, it contains the liquid. Through the cavernous sinus, good many structures they are passing without breaking and without leakage, and that cavernous sinus is important for your examination purpose. So we will discuss in the next video. So have light revision about the folds of dura mater. Brain is covered with the covering. The outermost covering of the brain is called as dura mater, which is thickened covering, and this covering, below this there are two more meningeal layers, that is arachnoid layer and the pile layer. So this first fold, which is the thickened dura mater, it has two layers, outer and inner layer. The outer layer remains patent, whereas the inner layer, or you can say meningeal layer, get its folds, and those folds are called as folds of dura mater. There are 4 folds of dura mater, one fold in between the two cerebral hemispheres, and that is called as falx cerebri. A fold between two cerebellar hemispheres, that is called as falx cerebelli. A partitional fold between cerebrum and cerebellum is called as transverse fold of dura mater. And the fourth one is around the pituitary gland, that is called as diaphragmatica celli. Thanks for watching. with the next video of the cavernous sinus. Please subscribe the channel so that you can get more and more interesting videos in the anatomy.